Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to make a video comparing two carry weapons that I've made a couple YouTube shorts about, but I've never made a serious video about it. And they're both going to be Glocks, and one of them is going to be a Glock 26 chambered in 9mm. The other one's going to be a Glock 30S chambered in 45 ACP. And before we get into this comparison, I'm going to show you neither one of these are loaded, and everybody is safe to watch this video. Okay, so what we're going to start off with is we're going to show you the Glock 30S. This is a 30S. This is a subcompact 45 ACP Glock. This has been out a long time. This is a Generation 3 gun, and I'm pretty certain, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, that they never made these anything past the Generation 3. Now, they have a regular Glock 30 that has a wider slide on it. It doesn't taper down like this. It's not as narrow as this right here for carry that they did make in Gen 4, but this is a Glock 30S. The S means slim slide. Now, the way this gun came about was Glock came out with a single stack Glock 36 45 ACP, and people were taking the slides off of them and putting them on a regular Glock 30 frame and making it a slimmer package to carry. Glock caught wind of it, and they started making this gun, the Glock 30S, which is pretty much a Glock 36 slide sitting on a Glock 30 frame, double stacked frame. So this gun here, this holds 10 rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber, which makes a total of 11 rounds of 45 ACP. Now this one here is a Glock 26. This is a subcompact 9mm. This is happens to be a Generation 5 one. It has the front serrations on it. It has the ambidextrous stuff on it. All the Generation 5 stuff has the different texturing on it, the different pin system in here. But other than that, it's all Glock. It's all tapered down on the front and everything. But this was a very popular gun for a while. This is a double stack 9mm. It holds 10 rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber also. This one's a 9mm. Now, if you look at these two guns together, they're very similar. The 45 is also, of course, going to be a little bit bigger. But if you look at these side by side, there's not really that big a difference. I'm going to show you the top. The one on the right is the Glock 30S. It's a little bit longer than the Glock 26, which is 9mm one on my left. And if you look at them on this way, very similar in height. Once again, the 45 on my right is going to be just slightly taller than the one on the left, which is the 9mm. Look at the bore on them. Obviously, the 45 is going to have the more impressionable bore size and all that. But these are both very common carry options. The reason I'm going to make this video is I've made a couple YouTube shorts here in the past, and my God, people, they love their 9mm and they do not like 45 ACP, and I have no idea why. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you my opinion on why everybody that wants to be right is not always right. So the 45 ACP under normal circumstances, the velocity on it's 850 to 950 feet per second. The 9mm here is around 1100 feet per second. That's their big argument on this, is the speed of the 9mm bullet. Well, folks, nobody's outrunning either one of these things. No way, shape, or form of anybody outrunning a bullet anyway. And they want to talk about the velocity of the 9mm is higher. Well, of course it is. It's a smaller bullet, and of course it's going to be higher. But is it going to knock something down? Now, when you get full-size pistols, the 9mm one, you are going to be able to hold more rounds than you can with the 45 because of the size of the cartridge. but you're going to need every one of these with the 9mm. I cannot tell you the countless numbers of police officers I've known and everything in the past when they were using 9mm. The reason they switched over to 45s and 40 calibers and all that was people were actually shooting at people and they were still coming. With the 9mm, I promise you this is going to happen with this one. This gun's been around a long time, the 45 ACP has, as well as the 9mm one. This one's always prevailed. It doesn't matter. The bullet drop thing, people make the argument that if at 100 yards you have to hold up more, a higher hold on a 45 than you do 9mm. Well, of course you do. Of course you do. This one's a lighter bullet, so it's moving a little bit faster, so there isn't going to be as much bullet drop in it. But I can tell you one thing, folks. If you're shooting somebody at 100 yards, it's what they call murder. You're murdering somebody. You're not going to be using either one of these two handguns at 100 yards. Can you hit targets at 100 yards with both of them? You absolutely can. Anybody can that has a little bit of practice. You just figure out where to hold and you can do it. These guns are accurate enough where you can do that. Should you be shooting at 100 yards? You absolutely shouldn't. These are inside your house, close quarters, inside of a parking lot within a certain radius. These are self-defense carry guns. These are not Ruger Precision 308s rifles. These guns are simply made to carry on your person for self-defense mechanisms, and what I always use them for is they are to get you to your rifle. Once you get to your rifle, these things no longer become a factor. Now, I ran into a situation this weekend where I went to a car show, and this is my 100% go-to carry gun all the time. I always carry a 45. 45 is a sure thing, and I left this in the car that I drove to the car show. My car stays in a warehouse about 5 miles away from my home, and I forgot it. So I had to use this one, which is my backup. This is a 9mm one, and I don't really like carrying 9mm, but something's barely better than nothing. So I used this the remainder of the weekend until I got to the car to retrieve my 45. So I have other options and all that, but I usually like to stick with these Glocks. These Glocks are 100% reliable. Everybody knows the Glock perfection saying. Well, it is true. They are perfect. They do not malfunction or anything like that. It's very rare that you come upon a Glock that's going to have a malfunction. It usually has something to do with some type of ammo or something if a Glock's going to malfunction. But I want everybody to look at these two guns side by side when they start talking about these. The 45s are just bulkier, so they're harder to carry. The thinness of them. I just want everybody to see that a 45 can be just a subcompact size as a 9mm, and you get a more powerful round, a bigger round, a more knockdown power round. There's every single advantage to this gun over this one. There's the only thing that people are going to talk about is the 45 is going to have a little bit more felt recoil when you shoot one of these. Well, that's what you call training. You have to train with anything. Trust me when I tell you, this little 9mm here, it's a little snappy gun too. Anything this size is going to be snappy, and you're not going to be a precise shooter with it. It's not going to be a Wilson Combat 1911. It's not going to have a great 1911 trigger. It's not going to be able to put them through the same hole, but you're going to get pretty close if you train with them. And the most important thing with any carry weapon is training. You have to know how to draw it. You have to know how it functions. You have to know what type of ammo you're using. You have to know that it will function with the ammo that you're carrying. You can't go to the range and take ball ammo out there, Winchester white box ball ammo, have 100% reliability, and then fill your gun up with Hornady critical defense and just hope that it works. This is the most important tool that you're ever going to own if you ever had to use it, and God forbid you I hope that you never have to use any of them. But if you do, this thing needs to work. This is like the brakes on your car. They need to work. So one of the arguments that people make is that 45 ammo is more expensive than 9mm. Well, of course it is. It's a more powerful round. It takes more power to use, to make it. It takes more material to make it. And to be quite honest, it's a better round. And if you're going to complain about the price of something, well, you're really in the wrong game. Nobody goes to the car mechanics and says, I want the cheapest brakes put on my car. And they want the best brakes put on the car, the ones that they know work. So if you're just going to the range and you want to practice or have fun and target shoot, the 9mm probably is the better way to go because it is cheaper to shoot. But if you want something for self-defense, it doesn't matter what it costs. Neither one of these are very expensive guns. Glocks are relatively cheap. They're polymer frame striker fire guns, so they're not very expensive, but these are proven tools right here. They 100% work. Now, like I said, this one's a Generation 3. It's got like little finger grooves on it. It's got a smaller magazine release thing. It doesn't have ambidextrous slide locks on it or anything like that. And I'm about 99% certain they never made this 30S past the Generation 3. But this is an awesome carry option. I mean, this thing fits in the palm of my hand, and it's a 45. It works for me. I've trained a lot with this thing. The recoil does not bother me at all. I can do just as fast as follow-up shots with anybody sitting here watching YouTube with a 9mm because I know what I'm doing and I practice and I know what a 45 is capable of doing, and I'm willing to learn how to use something. People have gotten lazy over the years, and they think that the less recoil makes them able to shoot faster and all that stuff. Well, I mean, if you don't practice, you probably will do better with the 9mm, but I'm telling you, it's going to take all of them, every single one of them that you have. And when you get down into these subcompact sizes, there's really not that much difference in capacity. Both of these are 10+1s, and I want to bet my life on 10 45s over 10 9mm all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. And all I wanted to do was do this little comparison, show you the difference. These little subcompact guns, there's virtually almost no difference in size. And I know I'm going to get comments saying that the one on the left, the 9mm one, is smaller. You're right, it is. How much smaller is it? Does it really make that big a difference here? It's not really that big a difference here, folks. You got 10 45s versus 10 9mm in the same type of gun. They're Glocks. If you look at them side by side, there's not that big a difference here. And the only difference in these two guns are the generations, and that's a whole Glock nut thing about the different generations and which ones are better. It's basically just a type of texturing and the finger grooves and a couple little minor things, but they're still Glocks. This one's got front serrations on it. This one don't. Does anybody actually use those front serrations on it? Because I don't. But there's a Glock 30S versus a Glock 26 9mm. Both carry options, both very popular. There's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down with these new single stack Glocks that they've came out with that extend this handle, this grip a lot further down. That'll hold the same rounds. That's not my thing. I'm usually in a conceal carry situation. You're looking at this length right here, top to bottom, how far it is from the grip to the top of the slide. And right here, grip to the top of the slide. This area here is what matters. And if you live in a state like I do, there is no open carry in the state that I live in. I'm sure it's coming one day, but it's not here. So you do have to conceal carry only. And the length of your grip is the most important thing when you're trying to conceal a weapon. Not the length of the barrel. That makes really no difference whatsoever. So you got 45 versus a 9mm, which one I prefer, and I will carry this 9mm if there is no other options around. But if I have both of these sitting here, I'm grabbing this 45 all day long. There's not even a question about it. The two World War things that I did in the YouTube short, it is a joke, but it is true. The 45 did win in two World Wars. So it can't be all that bad. It's been around over 100 years, and it's always proven us good. I mean, who can argue with the size of a 45 versus the size of a 9mm? If people want to talk about velocity and the speed that a bullet's moving, I mean, a 22 is moving just as fast as a 45, but nobody watching this video would choose a 22 over a 45. Nobody would. It's the size of it. It's the size and the knockdown power and the energy it takes when it's hitting something. So I don't want to hear any of this energy and ballistics. And I know there's a guy on YouTube that made a video about whether 45 go through a car door versus a 9mm. I've gotten a bazillion of those comments about this guy's video. That a 45 will not go through a car door. Well, every one of those people that think that a 45 won't go through a car door need to sit on the other side of a car door and take a shot from a 45. If they're that confident in watching a YouTube video, then they should be safe. I'm not sitting on the inside of a car and letting somebody shoot a 45 in at me. But if you want to make that argument also, who shoots through a car? Nobody does. These are self-defense weapons that are meant to be used for self-defense. Close quarter areas on a human body. And they'll do the trick. This one's going to knock you on your feet. This one may or may not do it. So they're both lethal. They both will absolutely end the life of a human being. I like this one better because this one's going to knock them on their feet. This one may or may not do it. So this is my personal opinion on it. A 45 is far superior to any 9mm made, and nobody's ever going to convince me any way that a 9mm is even close to a 45. I mean, I have an extensive collection of both, and this is the one that I carry, this 45 right here. So anyway, folks, let me know in the comments what you think, 45 or 9mm. I know I use these Glocks here. There's other ones that people can use. These are the ones that I have here today to make the argument are Glocks. And let me know what you folks think, and you folks have a great day.